Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Renal Paramel. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Strategy of Things. Strategy of Things is an innovation consulting firm. We focus on working with smart cities and emerging technologies like Internet of Things. We're here today to talk to Charlie Key from Losant about his company and the experiences that Losant has been putting in the field of IoT. So I would love to first have Charlie introduce himself and his company.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm Charlie Key. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Losant. We are an enterprise IoT application enablement platform. A lot of words to say that we provide the software to help companies build and deliver IoT products and solutions.
Fantastic. So let's get in the topic right away. So Charlie, what is ESG and why are we focusing on ESG now?
That's a good question. So ESG technically is an environmental, social, and corporate governance. And what that really means is it's companies trying to understand how they are doing from these different categories. Environmental being, what is their impact from a greenhouse gas? Social, how are they doing from a company standpoint, from a social standpoint, and from the governance. Okay, we have all of these things. Are we doing all of the proper stuff to have oversight? And why now is over the last year, the government, SEC, has started to put together a level of mandates on reporting against these different metrics and these different values. And so what we're going to see is over the next year, 2 years, a mandate for public companies to be able to report against this information in a aggregated way and provide that for the public markets. And this is already happening in Europe, and we're a little bit behind here in the US. So we're really starting to see a pickup in trying to understand what are these things. And when we talk about it today a lot, I'm going to talk about the environmental side of this and
Sure.
where IoT can happen. But that's kind of where we are and why now.
And how are you seeing your company providing value through IoT in the ESG space?
So IoT can provide value in a couple different ways when it comes to ESG and being able to report against the metrics that they need to provide to their shareholders, to their board, to the internal stakeholders as well. IoT has the ability to collect this data from the different variety of sources, especially on the environmental side. So if you think about a manufacturing company, they are using energy and producing waste. They're producing greenhouse gases. How do they measure that? How does that data get into a collected place in order to be able to report against it and give that? Today, what they do is they'll look at an energy meter, or they'll try to calculate based on the number of cars that they have, what these values are and what they can do. IoT has the opportunity to provide them not only the ability to gather that data in real time, but using it as actionable insights as well.
So using real data versus proxy data in this case, right?
Real data versus proxy data, exactly right. Yep.
So can you walk us through an example of perhaps a monitoring solution or a monitoring use case where a company has to collect data using an IoT solution, and how some of the solutions are finally then used from a visualization or a consumption standpoint at the end of the day?
Yeah, so we can kind of walk through a simple scenario. Let's say we're trying to understand our water usage at a bottling plant. So we can get it very generally. We look at how much water we bought or took in from the utility and say, okay, that's that. Where it really starts, the rubber meets the road, is let's start to instrument our facilities to understand how we're using that water and how much and when. So what are our processes using from a manufacturing standpoint, from a bottler? So we have sensors collecting this information. That data is getting sent up to a software platform like ours, where we aggregate that information. And then what we're going to do is we're going to provide that in two different ways. One is from a reporting standpoint to the people who are operating those manufacturing facilities. So the operators get that data front and center in real time, so they can use it to change the way they operate. And secondarily is provide that information from a reporting standpoint, from an ESG standpoint. So there are a lot of different tools and platforms out there that are providing the stringent reporting around ESG, and we can feed that data into those platforms in real time in order to hit those compliance regulations from an ESG or a European standards type of standpoint. So there's a lot of different ways, but it's first, let's instrument, collect, provide the visualizations from an operating standpoint, as well as the data from a compliance standpoint.
Fantastic. What are you seeing as some of the challenges today? I think you talked about data aggregation, and is it availability of the right data, or is it actually getting that data and making it useful so somebody can actually do something with it? What's the struggle there?
It starts with even collecting the right data. It starts with instrumenting and getting access to that information. And again, we'll take the scenario of a manufacturing plant. There is some of that data available from the machines, from the controllers, from the PLCs, from the systems. Now, that is hard to get to. That is not easy data to collect in an aggregated way and look at it at a 10,000-foot view. So that's step one. That is the step two is, all right, we're not even collecting data on a lot of this stuff. So the amount of waste that we're putting out the door, the amount of greenhouse gases that we're emitting, we're not collecting that data today. So then you have the problem of, okay, what is the right sensor? What's the right connectivity? What's the right data that I need to pull that up? And then all of those problems is, okay, how are we going to use this from an activity and an actuation standpoint? And so that's kind of the last step. Really, we're seeing companies just struggle to get the first two aspects get done.
And what are you seeing in terms of if you need to change the way you're modeling data, or if you need to change the way you're connecting sources, or if you need to change the way you're presenting this data, how easy or hard is it using the tools and platforms you're providing today?
For us, it's a straightforward process. It's not always easy because it's hard to get access to some of the instrumentation and some of the sensors itself. But from an activity standpoint of, okay, we need to collect this data and get the software in place. For us, it's easy because we have the right tools and the right software at the edge to be able to collect this data, whether it's from a building system. So if we're thinking about, you have a campus of buildings and we want to understand how much energy we're using across our different buildings, we have the software to collect that data on an easy way. We have the way to pull it from PLCs, from the manufacturing in an easy way. And so, we help make that first step easier, faster, allow our customers get that value easier, and start seeing that cycle of the data kind of flowing through in a way that gives them the ability to actually take action on it.
It's really fantastic that your company is focusing on ESG because over the past few years we're seeing a lot of traction coming into this space. What do you have in terms of recommendations or suggestions for others who are trying to move the needle in the ESG space, like your company?
I think it's a multi-pronged approach. I think one is talking to consultants and companies who have experience in ESG and helping these businesses understand what they really need to do and where that goes. Step two, and it can be done in parallel, is understanding what the technology needs to look like to be able to collect, instrument, and get that data from the correct places. And step three is, what are the reporting requirements that they have to provide in the right format? And so it's kind of a multi-pronged approach. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. And even if you're doing it by proxy today, you pick a few places that you can start to get that data in real time where it has true value, not only from a reporting standpoint, but from an operational standpoint. And so that's kind of step one.
Fantastic. Are you excited about any specific ESG projects that you're working on right now?
There's a few. We're focused a lot on buildings and manufacturing plants. So from a building standpoint, it's understanding the energy, understanding air quality, understanding output. Occupancy has a big impact on all of this. So, some really interesting things there. From a manufacturing standpoint, it's all around, again, water, waste, energy, which gets very complex very quick in those environments. So, there's some pretty interesting stuff going on.
Fantastic. So, well, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. We wish you all the best. Hopefully more folks understand the power and importance of aggregating data and making sure it's presented in a visually appealing manner. Thank you very much.
Thank you.